Let's learn about implementing IPv6 AnyCast address in this lesson. First, we need to answer the question, why AnyCast? As you may know, many enterprises nowadays provide the same set of services to end users around the world. To have the best performance for the end users, they need to install their servers in many locations so that the servers in each location provide the same set of services. Users in a location access the services on the nearest servers. Let's take a look at this example. IT Life Skills provide the training service in US and England, and they want the user in US to access the servers in US, and the users in England will access the server in England, and they can achieve the goal by using IPv6 AnyCast. Let's learn about IPv6 AnyCast address and how to implement it. As you may know, IPv6 AnyCast addresses can be any addresses from the unicast range chosen by network engineers. The AnyCast address can be configured on multiple servers, but it must be configured with the /128 prefix mask on the same interface with other type of IPv6 address, which is used to route the traffic to the AnyCast address. Let's see how IT Life Skills implement IPv6 AnyCast address on this network. First, they show this as the AnyCast address. As you can see, it is actually the unicast IPv6 address. To make it a unicast IPv6 address, we must specify the keyword AnyCast when we configure it on the interface, and it must have the /128 prefix mask. The AnyCast address coexists with another unicast IPv6 address, which is 2001.1.10 on server 1 and 2001.2.10 on server 2. These IP addresses are linked to the same unicast address, so the routers can route the traffic to the nearest server. Since the AnyCast address has the /128 prefix mask, so it must be configured on a server, and the servers must advertise their AnyCast addresses as host routes via a routing protocol, which means the servers must be capable of handling a routing protocol to communicate with the routers. Network engineer then can configure the routing protocol on the routers to choose the nearest servers based on the user's locations. Finally, a DNS record must be configured to point to the IPv6 AnyCast address. Let's see how we implement IPv6 AnyCast in a network. In this network, I have already configured OSPF routing protocol for IPv6. Let's verify the OSPF configuration on router 1 and router 2. Here we are at the privilege mode of IT Life Skills router 1. So let's issue the command show run section router. As you can see, for the OSPF configuration for version 3, we only need to configure the router ID. Then we need to configure the interfaces to enable them with the OSPF. Let's see the configuration
show run section interface, then hit enter. As you can see, here is the fast Ethernet 00 on IT Life Skills Router 1. It is configured with the correct IP address, and to enable OSPF, we issue the command IPv6 OSPF 1 area 0. Similarly, we need to enable OSPF on the interface F10. So we issue the same command, and here is the F10. It is configured with the correct IP address. Next, we need to enable OSPF on the interface F11. So we issue the same command IPv6 OSPF 1 area 0. Now let's see the configuration on IT Life Skills Router 2. We go to Router 2 and issue the command show run section router. As you can see, we only need to configure the router ID. And let's verify the configuration for OSPF on each interface. Here is the command show run section interface. As you can see, for the interface F00, we configure it with the correct IP address, and we issue the same command IPv6 OSPF 1 area 0. And for the interface F10, we configure it with the correct IP address, and we enable OSPF for that interface. And finally, for the interface F11, we configure it with the correct IP address, and we enable it with the OSPF. So everything looks good on the routers. Now let's verify OSPF configuration on the servers. First, let's go to server 1 and issue the command show run section router. And as you can see, we also only need to configure the router ID for the server. And now let's verify the configuration on the interfaces by using the command show run and filter for the section interface and hit enter. As you can see in the server, we only configure it for the interface F00, and here we are at the interface F00, and we configure it with the correct IP address, and we also enable it with OSPF by using the command IPv6 OSPF 1 area 0. Now let's go to server 2 and issue the same command show run section router, and we also just need to configure the router ID on the OSPF for server 2, and then we configure the interface with OSPF. Here we are at the interface F00 on server 2. As you can see, it is configured with the correct IP address, and we also enable it with OSPF. Everything looks good on the servers. The next step is to configure IPv6 AnyCast address on the interface F00 of each server. To do that, we need to use these two commands. Let's do it on IT Life Skills Server 1. As you can see, we already go to the configuration mode and go to the interface F00, and we issue the command IPv6 address, and then we specify the IP address, and to make it an AnyCast address, we specify the keyword AnyCast. Now let's save the configuration and go to server 2 to perform the same steps. So we issue the same command, and then we save the configuration, and that's it. Now let's verify IPv6 AnyCast address configure on each server. To do that, we need to use this command So let's do it on IT LiveSkill server 1. Let's issue the command show IPv6 interface F00. As you can see, this is the IPv6 AnyCast address, and it has the /128 prefix mask, and it is the AnyCast address. Let's verify the configuration on IT LiveSkill server 2, and we issue the same command show IPv6 interface F00, and here is the same IPv6 address, and it has the /128 prefix mask, and it is the Anycast address, so everything looks good. Now let's verify the routing table. As you can see, router 1 can get to the Anycast address either on server 1 via the interface F10 or server 2 via the interface F00. Similarly, router 2 can get to the Anycast address either on server 2 via the interface F10 or server 1 via the interface F00. Let's verify the routing table to see router 1 and router 2 get to which Anycast address. So here we are on the privileged mode of router 1. Let's issue the command show IPv6 route OSPF. As you can see, here is the Anycast address, and it gets to it via the interface F10. So router 1 get to the Anycast address via the interface F10, which means it's gonna send the traffic to server 1. Let's do it on IT LiveSkills router 2 by using the same command show IPv6 route OSPF. As you can see, here is the Anycast address, and it gets to it via the interface F10. So on router 2, get to the Anycast address on server 2 via the interface F10. Everything looks good. For the completeness, let's verify the connectivity from PC1 to the Anycast address. To do that, we issue the command chase route, and then we provide the Anycast address, then hit enter. And here is a result. From the result, we figure out that first PC1 send the traffic to router 1, and router 1 then send the traffic to the interface F00 on server 1. Let's verify the connectivity from PC2 to the Anycast address by using the same command, and here is a result. From the result, we see that PC2 first sends its traffic to router 2, and router 2 then forwards the traffic to the interface F00 on server 2. So everything looks good, and we achieved the goal that the traffic to the Anycast address gets sent to the nearest server.